We're live. Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day today. Welcome to week 4 of the JavaScript Bootcamp, the free JavaScript Class Central Bootcamp. Look at all these messages coming in. Good morning. Lovely to see everybody. Good afternoon from the Netherlands. Hello. Where else are folks tuning in from? So great to see everybody here today. Welcome to hello from Dublin. hello. I just want to take a second and say congratulations. We are now at the halfway point of this boot camp. Starting now, we're in the second half. Isn't that incredible? It kind of feels like, oh, hello from Azerbaijan. Wonderful. Great to see everybody's here. Happy Chinese New Year. Thank you. Hello from Moldova. Yeah, it's wonderful to see all of you stick around, keep learning together, motivate each other, learn from each other, and of course, learn together. I think this is the best way to do it. Hello from India. Hello. Yeah. Hello from the Philippines. Hi. And from Greece. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. Let's dive right in and get to the next section of our boot camp. We're now going to be learning the latter half, which is incredible if you ask me. And yeah, we're going to be doing some more exercises. So little brief window into how this week is going to look. Today, we're going to be doing hello from Indonesia and Romania. I love to see everybody's enthusiasm. Yeah, this week we're going to be doing debugging, which you see here at the top. Tomorrow, we'll be doing the next one. We'll be doing basic data structures. And then on Wednesday, so the day after tomorrow, we're going to be doing our third project, which is the Caesar's cipher, which is sort of like an encryption algorithm. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then on Thursday, we're going to have a guest session. We're going to have Parhamon. It's going to be amazing. Let me just, thank you very much. Yeah, we're going to have the guest session is called Everyone Matters, an inclusive approach to design, development, and testing. And this is going to be a treat. I guarantee it. So without much further ado, let's get right into our exercises. Let me just bring up debugging. Yeah. So today we're going to be learning all about debugging, the process of how we use debuggers in our tools and how we can fix problems, because debugging is not so much just, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I did an exercise and I got quite stuck. You all remember, some of you might remember. And the whole thing about that is that was me kind of debugging the problem, debugging my code. But the same goes for not just for understanding problems, but for also fixing our code or the code of others. So we're going to be looking into some of the tools we use to do that and some problems that we will need to debug. Now, as always, if there are any urgent matters to take care of, I will, of course, answer them in chat. But otherwise, let's do a Q&A at the end of the session once we're done with the exercises, once the top of the hour is up, and we'll go through as many as we can, time allowing. And we'll stay hydrated, of course. Cool. All right, so let's dive right in. We're going to start with using the JavaScript console to check the value of a variable. Now, it's not going to look too different from what we've been doing so far in this bootcamp. In this bootcamp, whenever we wanted to console log something, it would always show up here. And this output area here is quite similar to what we could be doing directly in our browser. You might have been wondering, okay, cool that we can do it here, but how can we, debug stuff in in real life? You know what I mean? In real in other applications. And that's where our browser comes in handy. See, our browser has a console or dev tools, as they're called. I've worked in dev tools. Most browsers should have these. For example, Google Chrome, which is what you see here, has dev tools. Firefox has dev tools. I believe Safari has dev tools as well. I've used them there. And other browsers should have these too. Normally, what I do to access my dev tools is to right click and click on inspect. This is how I do it in Chrome. I don't know how it's done in other browsers. It depends on the browser. And what you should then see is this here. I've made it. I hope the size is okay. I tried my best to make it large. If not, try and turn your video sideways if you're watching on a mobile device. But I checked this on a mobile device. It hopefully should be okay. So, hello, good evening from Uzbekistan. I hope it's not too late there, huh? Plenty of time to get rest, please. And what we can do here is have a look at our console. And that's what we're going to be wanting to do most of the time. Now, if you haven't taken a look at the JavaScript, I've previewed it a couple times. We're going to be briefly checking it out now. And what's cool about it is that it essentially, Shaka says, F12 also works on Chrome at least. Thank you very much. So that's the F12 key on your keyboard. Fantastic. Thank you. And what is great about it is that it essentially allows us to not only debug or print out the values of JavaScript that we write, but also write our own JavaScript to test stuff. Say, for example, actually, this is how I do a lot of my maths on my computer. I'll do, for example, console log, I don't know, 4 plus 7. And that'll let us run our command and also print out the output. So whatever gets output here will show up. Anthony says, Control or Command plus Shift plus I is also really good for opening and closing the DevTools. Thank you very much, Anthony. Both absolutely wonderful alternatives for that. So that's what we can do. But you might have noticed a 7 showed up here. And I just want to take a second to preview what's going on. So I'm just going to refresh my page. Now, we can see that my console has been cleared. We've got a 7 here being printed, and we also have a 7 here. Let's have a look at what this code does, first of all. So we're doing let A equals 5, let B equals 1. We increment A by 1. We declare a variable that's the value of A plus B, and then we print out that variable, which A is 5, A is now 6, plus 1 is 7. So we print out 7 here, and we can see it's also printing out 7 here in our console. So that's how that works. Now our exercise is to say, use the console log method to print the value of a variable A where noted in the code. So we want to change only code below this line. So let's console log A here. The value of A. Now, we're getting 2 statements here. That's because it's run our code, done this console log and this console log. So we see this one here, number 6 and 7. So we're printing out the value of A, which is 6. And you'll see it's very similar to what we see here, because essentially what we're doing is treating this as a kind of console. But the majority of the time when we're developing our applications, we're going to be spending, if we wanted to see the value of the stuff we're printing out, we'd see it here in our dev tools. So let's run our test and see how it looks. And we did it. I'm just going to first close my console so I can see the whole thing, and now give myself a pat. And we're already 8% of the way done. So let's just keep going. So you may have noticed that some freeCodeCamp challenges include their own console. This console behaves a little differently than the browser console. There are many methods to use with console to output messages. So we could use console log, console warn, and clear to name a few. So the freeCodeCamp console will only output log messages, while the browser one will output all the messages. When you make changes to your code, it will automatically run and show the logs. The freeCodeCamp console is then cleared each time your code runs. What a good point. Let's open up my console again and see what they mean. See, let's console log output, the value of the string output. Now, one thing you'll notice is that we still got our log here showing the console logs we were doing before, but also showing this new one here. Get this to show once in the freeCodeCamp console and not at all in the browser console. So we have lots of different kinds of console logs we can do. For example, if we do console warn, as they suggested, let's take a look at what happened. Whoopsie. There we go. Now, console warn will not show up here, as we can see, but check it out. It shows up here with a little yellow triangle with it's sort of an exclamation mark to tell us, hey, this is a warning. It usually to bring the developer's attention. This is just an aesthetic change for us to be able to say, hey, this shouldn't be good. Now, you can see it's not showing up here, and that's because the freeCodeCamp console only shows the console logs. Mostly only shows the console log, but the warns will show up in our dev tools, which is cool. We also have access to clear. Let's try that out. Let's try console.clear. Now, we can see console was cleared, which is good, but we can still console log output. Let's see what happens here. We console log output, it shows up here, but because line 4 is ignored by the freeCodeCamp console, it doesn't clear it here, but the dev tools do clear it. So let's take a look at our exercises. First, open your browser console so you can see the logs. We know how to do it by now. Then find the console tab in the window that opens. We've got it here. After that, use console log to log the output variable, which we do here. View the two consoles to see the log. Finally, use console clear after your log to clear the browser console. View the difference in the two consoles. So that's something we've essentially already done. So we've console logged output and we've console cleared. So shows up here, does not show up here. So that's that. I'm going to close my console and now run our tests. And there we go. Pat, pat. Cool. Let's keep going. Aha. So now we're going to be using typeof to check the type of a variable. Let's take a look at these examples we got here. So we have access to this keyword called typeof, and then we can pass to it a value. This can be either a primitive, like a string, like a number, like an array, like an object, or it can be a variable. For example, let's try that right away. So here we're console logging 7 plus 3, which give us 73. Aha, because 7 is a number and 3 is a string. Using type coercion, JavaScript will treat the 7 as a string. So the string 7 plus the string 3 will give us 73 instead of 10, as you might have expected. So let's first, instead of console logging 7 plus 3, let's console log type of 7. It tells us it's a number, which we know. Let's console log 3. That's a string. What if we type of 7 plus 3? I think I need to do this. So it console logs the whole thing. Oh, I like what Dallas says here. In a battle between strings and numbers, strings always win. I don't know how accurate that's it. You're most likely right. I constantly forget how these things work, but that sounds good. But I like the analogy. So here, I've done a typeof for 7 and the addition of 7 and 3, and that's a string as well. There's where that type coercion comes in. So let's see what we've got. We've got these types of primitive immutable data types: Boolean, null, undefined, number, string, and symbol. And one type for mutable objects, object. Note that in JavaScript, arrays are technically a type of object. If you want to read up more on that, I highly recommend checking out the MDN docs. If my assistant could please bring that up, there you're going to find a great read up on all of this stuff. But let's add, so let me bring back my code to the way it was. 7 plus 3. Cool. So let's add 2 console log statements to check the type of each of the 2 variables 7 and 3 in the code. And let's do that. Log 7 and console log 3. So, oh, I forgot the type of. Whoops. So type of 7 and type of 3. So we can see type of 7 is a number, type of 3 is a string. We got a question here from Gaura who asks, I've got a question tomorrow for front end. Tell me what I should go through. I love this question. Let's bring it up again in the Q&A section, please, so we can do the lessons, and then we'll do, I think this is a great topic to ask about. If anybody in the chat would like to contribute to this topic, please also do that in the chat. Thank you for your question. So, add 2 console log statements. Yes. So we've done that, 7 and 3 in the code. And there we go. Pat, pat. Let's keep going. We're already a quarter of the way. Ah, yes, of course. And just to clarify, I'm operating this voluntarily in collaboration with Class Central, who are separate from freeCodeCamp. freeCodeCamp are volunteers working on this open source materials. If you have the money, if you want to, they would highly appreciate the $5 a month. I do that on my other account. Yeah. Cool. So let's, okay. So now we're going to be catching misspelled variable and function names. So this is where the issues that we're going to debug are going to come in. Quick sip of water. Cool. So let's see what we got here. We've got a variable called receivables is equals to 10. We got a variable called payables, which is equals to 8. And we got a networking capital, which is equals to receivables minus payable. And we're console logging networking capital is using template literals to interpolate the value of networking capital. But let's have a look here. Reference error, receivables is not defined. Now, this is tricky. Let's look at the other console as well, just to make sure what it looks like. And the error we're getting here is identical. Let me just clear this, run it again. Just going to add a line here. So receivables is not defined. Now, why is that? Now, what I usually do is I just make very sure, why would receivables not be defined if it's defined? Hold on a second. Now, some of you might have noticed, like if you, Ashley's got it right. I before E, except after C. And that's exactly the problem here. It's a typo. We can see here, receivables is spelled with an IE, but here it's spelled with an EI. So we want to be consistent. I usually go with, I think receive is spelled with an EI. So we're going to just change that here, EI. And same thing again. Thank you, Ashley. So we got another reference error. Payable is not defined. And that's odd because I can see here I've got in line 2, I define a variable called payables. Hold on a second. We can see here payable. Where am I talking about payable? Oh, I can see that here. Payable. So what I need to do is make this consistent. Missing S, as Richard says. Yes. Look at they're coming in. Needs an S. Yep. You're all right. Thank you, everybody. You are all correct. So we're just going to, payables. Phew, there we go. So now we've got networking capital is 2. Fix the 2 spelling errors in the code so the networking capital calculation works. And there we go. This, Sutton Cookie says this happens to me a lot. It happens to me all the time. All the time. The number of times that I've misspelled the word constructor, I've lost count of how many times I've misspelled that word. Thank goodness for debugging tools to help me find that. Let's run our test and see how it goes. And there we go. Yeah, pat. Let's keep going. Cool. Submit and go to the next challenge. Now, we want to catch unclosed parentheses, brackets, braces, and quotes. A lot of this time, we're going to have some code where we forget to put in brackets. If you've been following this bootcamp with me live, you know that I have missed my brackets all the time. Happens to me constantly, and I go whoopsie, and then I realize what's up. So, and there, it's really helpful to just take a look at the console and just see what they're saying. Syntax error, unknown, unexpected token, expected a comma. And here we got, let my array open, square bracket, 1, 2, 3, semicolon. And there we got a little caret telling us like, hey, something's not right there. And that's exactly what the problem is. I'm sure you all are, who are like, you know, the chat is always like lagging behind the video. So it always comes a little bit later, but there it comes. People are chiming in. There's a bracket missing. That's absolutely correct. Thank you, Bhavin. And Ahmed said like, there is a missing square bracket. So we're just going to add that missing square bracket. There we go. And same thing applies again. Let me make this a little bit wider, if I may, just to make sure my caret lines up nice. There we go. Look at that. Cool. So line 2, unexpected token, expected a comma. And if we take a look, array sum, my array.reduce, we open 2 brackets here where we declare we declare an arrow function. that comes with two parameters, previous and current. We then put the arrow and we return previous plus current. We close our arrow function and there it is. And people are chiming in correctly again. Ashley says missing bracket. Bracket is missing again. After first current, you need to add a closing bracket. But here's a little disagreement because Ahmed said after the first current, Bhavin says at the end. So the line one is missing that, and line 2 is missing the close. Yes, but we need to be careful about where we put it, because if I put it at the end, we're going to see previous is not defined. So that's not quite right. So we want to do it after our parameters. So we've got, I can see we open our parameters brackets here, and here's where it's missing. So just close, wrong bracket. There we go. There we go. So we've defined our parameters for our arrow function, done our arrow function with its immediate return. I forget what the name of that type of return is, but yeah. And then we return previous plus current. Sum of array values is array sum, doing our template literals. And do we have sum of array values is the number 6. So just going to put this back the way it was. Fix the two pair errors in the code. That looks good. Let's run our tests. Hey, there we go. Pat. Look at that, 42% already. Love. So, Ashley correctly, good job, everybody. Yeah, I agree. Good job, everybody. And that's what I love about doing these things live, is that we're just all learning together. It's wonderful. Jefferson asks, when are we going to have another course with you? I'll just answer this briefly before the Q&A. We would love to do another one. We have no dates yet, so stay tuned. So, catch mixed usage of single and double quotes. We've been here before, haven't we? Let's take a look at this exercise, at our code here. I'm just going to make it wider, if I may. There we go. So we've got a variable called inner HTML, which is, we've got a, if you've done some web development, great. If not, don't worry. We'll go through this together. We've got some, Jess taught me this term, chevrons, indicating that we've got the a P element, which is a paragraph. Click here too, and then we define an anchor tag with a ref, as Jess says. And that's where we have a quote mark. That's not good, because that terminates the string. We can see here, unknown missing semicolon. We can actually see the caret being like, hey, that's not good. Let's see what folks are saying. Ahmed said, make home to be home. Yes, let's do that. Let's try that. I love that. Please, folks, chime in. This is how we learn together. And there we go. Hey, you did it. Nice one, Ahmed. Thank you. We've got click here to ref. We'll go to home, return home, closing tag, closing tag. This prints it. So this looks good. Let's take a look at our exercise real quick. Anna's asking, will we have lessons from backend development? Again, not during this bootcamp, but we would love to do another bootcamp where we do front-end development. So I'll just keep those questions coming. I'll just answer them, the vast majority of them, at the Q&A at the end. So fix the string so it either uses different quotes for the ref value or escape the existing ones. Keep the double quote marks around the entire string. Either use different quotes, which we did here, or escape the existing ones. Just for this, so we've done this correctly. I hope. Let's run the tests. Yes, but before I pat, let's try the other thing. Let's try escaping the existing ones. And as Nature's Technology here says, we can use slash, specifically the backslash. That is not a backslash. This is a backslash. So we can use a backslash to use those strings and say, hey, don't terminate my string here. Use an escape. Now, you might remember this. I think we did this in the first week of the bootcamp. So super cool. We've got, thank you for the suggestion. We can see here, working fine. Excellent. Let's run our tests. Hey, works great. Pat, pat. And we're halfway through debugging. Hey, nice. Cool. Let's keep going. So let's catch use of the assignment operator instead of the equality operator. Ooh, let's take a look at our code. So we've got x is equals to 7. We've got a variable called y is equals to 9. Let result equals to come. And if x is equals to y, where the result will be set to equal. Otherwise, the result is not equal. So we know that 7 and 9 are different. So it should print out not equal. But we can see here it's printing equal. And the reason for that, as people are correctly saying in the chat, gosh, y'all are so good. Line 5, yep. In line 5, we're using the assignment operator. So what we're actually doing here is saying, hey, if x is set to be equals to y, which it is, and then that expression will return it. In fact, let's console log it just to see what's going on here. X is equals to y. And everybody's screaming at this is great. 3 equals, double equals, not equals. This is great. Let's see what's going on here. Check it out. We want this to print either true or false, but we can see because we're using the assignment operator, it's actually printing out 9. It's printing out the value of y. So as it sets x to have that value. So as folks are correctly saying, using that's not a equals. Using a 3 equals will give us false, which is what we want. Using a double equals also will give us false. So we can use either double equals or 3 equals to do it. Or triple equals, sorry. I don't want to use my nicknames for everything. I just like the term 3 equals. So there we see, if x is 3 equals to y, then it should be equal. But because they're not, it's going to print out not equal. Look at that. Everybody in the chat being like, yeah, equals. Hey, love to see it. Thank you. So let's see what our exercise is. Fix the condition so the program runs the right branch and the appropriate value is assigned to result, which it is. Run our tests. Yep. Pat, pat. Nice one. Let's keep going. So what do we got next? Catch missing open and closing parentheses after a function call. Cool. Oh gosh, this has happened to me so many times. So we got a function called get9. It takes no parameters. And what it does is it defines a variable called x, which has value 6, defines a variable called y with value 3, and returns x plus y. So it'll return the number 9. So we let result equals get9, and then we console log result. And we get this here, like function get9. I want to take a look at it for fun. I want to take a look at it in the console as well, because this is something that the dev tools do. That's pretty cool, I hope. Look at this. So in here, instead of seeing function get9, we actually get a printout of the contents. How cool is that? So what we're doing is printing out the function. We've assigned result to be the function. So when we print out result, we're printing out the function. Not the result of calling the function, but the function. It's weird. And let's see what folks are saying in the chat, because I think, yeah, Sema's saying use the smooth brackets. Should be the brackets, equals get9, add some brackets, line 7, yeah, because get9 is a function. Correct. Nice one, everybody. So just to show you a little bit of how weird this can be, we could totally add the brackets here. It prints out our 9. But because we're assigning result to be, like if we took this just to the way it was, right? Because result is a function, could we put the brackets here? Huh? How weird is that? So we can say, hey, I know result is a function. I probably did it on purpose. We could add the smooth brackets here. Just showing one of the weird things that JavaScript can do. It's weird, but it's kind of intentional, isn't it? Because we're just assigning, the variable is holding the function. So we can call that function. Isn't that weird? So yeah, we can, but what everybody's saying very correctly, as Malik says here, line 7 at the end, put the get 9. So let's see what our exercise is. Let's fix the code so the variable result is set to be the value returned from calling the function get9. So even though we could have done it that cheeky way that I did before, it's not what the exercise wants. The exercise wants to store the result of calling the function. So we got it. We got it. Let's run the tests. Hey, pat. Cool. Let's keep going. Okay. So let's catch. So in this exercise, we're going to catch arguments passed in the wrong order when calling a function. Okay. So let's see what we got here. Function raised to power, which takes in two parameters, b and e, and that returns math.pow, the value of calling math.pow with the function, with the variables b and e. So before we get into what math.pow does, let's take a look at what we're doing here. We got a variable called base with a value of 2, and an exp, a variable called exp with the power of 3, and we want we assign the variable pow to be raised to power, exp, and base, and we want to console log power. So that's printing out 9. Let's take a look at what this function does. So what math.pow does is it says this, it returns this to the power of this, which is the same variable. The same value is, if you're not familiar with powers, is what is the result of multiplying this number, this number by itself this many times. So for example, 2 to the power of 3 is the same as multiplying 2 times 2 times 2 3 times. That gives us 8. 2 to the power of 4 is 16. 2 to the power of 10 is 1024. I didn't calculate that in my head. It's just one that I know by heart. So the problem is, Johannes says it looks cold. It is cold. It's something like 4 degrees here in Vienna. Now, the problem is, let's take a look at our exercise. The function raise to power raises a base to an exponent. Unfortunately, it's not called properly. Fix the code so the value of powers is the expected 8. So what we're doing here is passing 3 to the power of 2. So we're passing exp to b and 2 to e. And we want to do that the other way around. We want to have 2 to the power of 3, not 3 to the power of 2. So what folks are correctly saying in the chat, let me see what we got here. We want to switch around base and exp. Raise to power base exp instead of exp base. Line 7, switch parameters. Yeah. Raise to power base exp. Base exp. Ooh, minus 14 in Montreal. Ooh. Yeah, I feel a little warmer now. So, base and exp. So we've switched those parameters around, and now we're saying, hey, raise 2 to the power of 3, which gives us 8. So that's our expected result. Run our tests. Yes. Pat. Hey, look at that. We are 75% of the way done. I even have time for a sip of water. Ikenna even says parameter switch. Correct. That's what we're doing here. So let's submit and go to the next challenge. Ooh, off by 1 error. So we're going to catch off by 1 errors when using indexing. So we're going to be catching what are called off by 1 errors, sometimes called oboe. I have never in my life heard this term. I'm not saying that freeCodeCamp aren't right. I'm sure that's what they're called. I've just never seen it look like that before. I mean, sometimes is sometimes, right? Before we get into the exercise, let's take a look at our code. So we've got a function called count to 5, where we have a variable called first 5, which is a string made up of the numbers 1 through 5. We're getting the length, we're getting a variable len, which is the length of the string, which should be 5. So we've got a for loop, which starts at 1. I is expected to be less than len, and I goes up by 1 every loop. Cool. And we want to console log first 5 I. So what's going on here? We've got 2, 3, 4, 5 undefined. Now that's odd. I actually want to console log first. I want to actually, before console logging this, I want to console log the value of I just to see what's going on. So the value of I is printing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Makes sense. It starts at 1 and it goes up until len. However, what we want, let's take a look at our fix the 2 indexing errors in the following function. So the numbers 1 through 5 are printed to the console, which they are, but we actually want to be printing them from the string. Now, the first problem is, as we know, strings, just like arrays, are 0 indexed. So we're not actually starting at 0, we're starting at 1. So we really should be starting from 0. First part. Folks are saying that correctly here. Thank you, Ahmed. Yes. And there, you also found the other problem. We're going to get to that one in a sec. Yeah, people are giving here the correct for loop. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah. 0 indexing. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Jolene. In the for loop, remove the equals from less than equals. And Sergey says it doesn't accept the solution I equals 0. I is smaller than or equals to length minus 1. That's odd. Let's get to that in a second. So let's first do what everybody's suggesting and remove the equals. So instead of I being less than or equals to len, let's do I is less than len. Now it's going to go 0 through 4. Fantastic. Let's print out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're printing out the members of that array, and that works. But let's look at what you were saying, Sergey. Let's try that. Minus 1. Sorry. Less than or equals to length minus 1. Still prints out 1 through 5. And you're saying it doesn't work, huh? Let's give it a try. Your code should set the terminal condition of the loop so it stops at the last index. So, I think it's a bug in the code, in the test. Let's try that by trying with this. Good. Yep. Pat. I think it's a bug, frankly. And Atharva says very correctly, yes, I is equals to 0, I is less than len, and I plus plus. Y'all are so good at this. I love it. So I'm gonna have time for another sip of water. All right. Use caution when reinitializing variables inside a loop. Ooh, this is a big one. Let's take a look. So we want a function called see what I got. I got undefined at the end when I did less than or equals. That's odd. Jason Derulo. Sorry, that's a funny name. I'm sorry, I'm not insulting the name. It's a fun pun. It's a bug in the test, but if it enforces not doing something like less than or equals to length minus 1, then I think that's okay. That's a fair point. Doing less than len is a little bit more, is a little cleaner. Yeah. Maria says, I also got undefined until I remove the equals. Yeah, that's because we're going all the way to the end until 5. So let's go to this exercise real quick. So we've got a function called 0 array, m, comma n. It takes 2 parameters. And this function creates a 2D array with m rows and n columns of zeros, which if we take a look here, creates an array of m rows and n columns. But we got 3 rows. That's good. We see here 1 row, 2 row, 3 rows. And we've got, they should have 2 zeros each. But here we can see we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros each. So that's not quite right. Let's take a look at what's going on here. We define a new array equals, a new array is an empty array. We have a row which is set to an empty array. And then we start a nested for loop. So we go from I to M. Yeah. And then we've got and here it says adds the mth row into the array. Then we've got a nested array here, which goes from 0 to n, pushes n zeros into the current row to create the columns. Cool. Pushes the current row, which now has n zeros in it, into the array. So the following function is supposed to create a two-dimensional arrays with m rows and n columns of zeros. Unfortunately, it's not producing the expected output because the row variable isn't being reinitialized or set back to an empty array in the outer loop. Fix the code so it returns the correct 3x2 array of zeros, which looks like 0, 0, 0, 0, and 0, 0. So what's going on here? What I like to do is actually oh, and Anthony says, this one took me a while to understand earlier and posted my explanation on Discord if anybody wants to go back to it. Thank you very much, Anthony. Could we get a link to the forums in Discord, please, to my assistants? So if you want to find it, you can totally go there and discuss these problems and solutions. So I like to, you know me, I like to console log all the things. Let's console log row. Take a look what's going on here. Because what's going on is kind of interesting, isn't it? You see, every time we go through it, let me just remove this console log real quick. Every time we go through the outer loop, we start with an empty array, good. But when we start the second run through the loop, row actually already has 2 zeros, and it shouldn't. It should be empty because we want to add a new empty row. In the third run through, you'll see it has 4 zeros already in it, which means this row is continuously growing, whereas we want it to start as empty. And the proof in the pudding is that if we console log row after everything, you see it has 6 zeros. So what we should be doing is at the start of each loop through each outer loop, so for each row, we want to have an empty row. So we can say row is equals to empty array. Let's try it out now. Console log row. It's going to show up as empty every time now, which is good. As Ahmed said, add row equals empty array in line 7. Exactly. Let's console log the matrix now. Now we've got our arrays of 3 zeros. This can seem a little bit confusing. If you've got questions about it, let's go through. Let's take another look through it just to be safe. So without this, we've got a row that we are continually adding zeros to. So when we push, we're pushing in another 0 to that row, and we're adding that same row to each line. That's why they all have 6 zeros at the end. So what we want to do is every time we add a new row, we just make that row empty, and then it'll always have the 2 zeros. Folks, if you're catching up, don't worry. These lessons will be recorded and saved on YouTube, and you can always ask questions in the forum or on Discord, which I will highlight right here. So no worries. Cool. Yeah, so that's how that works. Let's run our tests and see how it goes. And there we go. 92%. Pat. We're almost done. Cool. So, prevent infinite loops with a valid terminal condition. Let's take a look at this. Let's see what's going on. By the way, folks, if you're hopping in live and you're wondering what's going on here, we're running a free JavaScript bootcamp where we're going through the freeCodeCamp JavaScript's qualification, you can enroll in the bootcamp on classcentral.com. We're about to do our final exercise for the day. So let's see what's going on here. We got a function called myfunc. Can't help but do a little dance when I say myfunc. And my funky function. Sorry. So we've got let I equals 1. Good. We start at 1. I must not be equals to 4. So this loop will end when I is equals to 4. And through every loop, we print out I equals plus equals 2. So we add 2 to I. So we've got, let's call this function and see what's going on. My func. Still going, still going, still going. And look at that. It just keeps going forever. Potential infinite loop detected on line 2. Tests may fail if this is not changed. So why is this going forever? What I like to do is to console log. You already knew that. Let's console log I and see what happens. So we got 1 still going, 3 still going, 5 still going, 7 still going, 9 still going, 11 still going. What happens is I starts at 1. The loop will stop when I is equals to 4. However, because we're adding 2, it'll always be odd numbers. It'll never reach 4. So let's see what the exercise wants in order for us to prevent this. The myfunc function contains an infinite loop because the terminal condition I must not be equals to 4 will never evaluate to false and break the looping. I will increment by 2 each pass and jump right over 4 since I is odd to start. Fix the comparison operator in the terminal condition, that's this one here, so that the loop only runs for I is less than or equal to 4. And let's see, replay says very correctly, yeah, I must be less than or equals to 4. Ahmed also says that, change I is not equals to 4 to I is less than or equals to 4. We're going to use this chevron here, the chevron here, and there we go. Still going, still going. So we are now preventing the loop from going beyond that. Phew. Let's run our tests, see what we got. We did it! Pat, pat. Hey, we're done. We are done with today's exercises. Let me just take a moment to congratulate everybody. We made it through the debugging section, and you might have thought that this was going to involve a lot of like complex problems and all that, but what we did here was look at some real life examples of typos and other kinds of issues that arise, missing parentheses and that, things that happen to us all the time, and evaluated how we can solve those. Couple of things before we get into a Q&A. Let's open up the next challenge and take a look at where we are at. Hey, we just completed debugging. I'm always going to say this, I'm doing this in collaboration with Class Central, who are not affiliated with freeCodeCamp. They provide this for free. So if you're interested and have the money, of course, please, the $5 a month will be super appreciated. I do this in my other account, but don't be donating if you can't, eh? So this would now bring us to basic data structures, which is going to be the next one. But before, thank you, Ivan. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I'm sorry if I didn't. Much appreciated. So sorry, compliments just throw me off. So basic data structure. So this is what we're going to be starting with tomorrow. Tomorrow, same time, same place, we're going to be doing basic data structures. That means that there is no homework today because we made it through all of the exercises. What I would recommend, as always, is look a little bit ahead if you have time, if you want to, and help out your peers who are in the chat and probably confused about something as I go through these tomorrow. Also, just again, if you have time, have a read through the project, which is going to be the Caesar cipher on Wednesday. Just have a look at it, start thinking about it. I like to give it a couple of days to just sort of like mold in my head what it's going to look like. But again, only if you have time. Be sure to rest as well. Cool. So with that, I would say, let's get into some Q&A. I just want to say, folks, please throw in the chat any questions you might have. I'll try my best to answer them. I hope to be able to give you a satisfying answer. If not, remember, we've always got the forums and Discord. If I don't get to everything, the links will go up in just a second. So yes, Q&A. There's the forum link, group.classcentral.com. Yeah, what questions have you folks got? Today was pretty straightforward, so maybe there aren't a whole lot of questions. Maybe there's something from previous sessions that might be throwing you off. Super open for whatever kind of questions we got. Ooh, Atharva asks, how can I increase my typing speed? I'm sorry if I typed too fast, first of all. That's a hard question to answer. I have a lot of experience typing. I started programming when I was in high school, and so I just kept at it for a while. Typing up stuff and reports. Practice, I guess, helps a lot. I type a lot in English, so that and that lends itself very well to a QWERTY or QWERTY layout. Oh, ooh. Here's a suggestion from Iconic, keybr.com. I don't know what that is. Check it out, please. What does use strict in a function mean? What does use strict mean? Let's find out. Let's go on DuckDuckGo and type in mdn use strict. I don't actually know. I think it has something to do with strict mode. So, is a way to opt into a restricted variant of JavaScript. So it's JavaScript, but more strict. For example, some silent errors will now result in pure errors. Fixes mistakes that make it difficult for JavaScript engines to perform optimizations. Prohibit some syntax likely to be defined in future versions of ECMAScript. Those are future versions of JavaScript. So if you say, hey, put use strict at the top of your file, you will activate that strict mode for JavaScript. Am I sharing the right window? Yes, I am. Sorry, I can't see the chat at the same time. So just going to move this a little bit more around here. Okay, yes. So strict mode is a strict version of JavaScript that will throw more errors and stuff and be stricter. Oh, look, you can have strictness inside a function, but not necessarily outside of it. So that's interesting. So it doesn't have to be at the type of the file. Yeah, so I hope that answers. A lot of questions came in. Let's answer a whole bunch of them. Cool. Another Galbrush recommends TypeRacer for practicing typing. Let's debug an example with a JavaScript class constructor. Sure. Let's bring that up right away. Yeah, I'm just going to go on the first one here, just so I have any old exercise. Let's say find a class called, my favorite, dog. Have a constructor with a name as a parameter, and we'll call this, new name. This dot name is equals to new name. What we can do with a constructor is when we initialize a class, an object from a class, we can give to it a default. I made a mistake here. Sorry. We can give it a default value for it to set as one of its properties. New dog. Geraldine. We are printing out here an object with the name property set to Geraldine, and we can make this be whatever we like. Owner name, for example. So now we've initialized the new dog with the owner name property set to Geraldine. So this, no matter what its name is, will get assigned to this property. Hope that helps. Where is my window with the chat? Sorry, I'm going to be a bit of a mess here. Yeah, cool. Let's see. Someone asked about his interview for front end. Maybe they can repeat their question. Yes, let me scroll up in the chat and see if I can find it. Yeah. Where was that? I think I got it. I've got an interview tomorrow for a front end job, I would assume. Tell me what I should go through. I would recommend if you're doing front-end stuff, check out the most common front-end frameworks if you haven't already. Have a glance through the documentation for these if like it might help to know what the stack being used for that front-end job is. So if it's a React one, just have a glance through the React docs, maybe take a look at some layouts, take a look at some common questions. If this is a junior level position that you're interviewing for, highly recommend just showing how open to learn you are. This is what helped me get my first job. Keeping in mind, I got super lucky when I got my first job. I want to be very, very explicit about that. But yes, showing my willingness to learn, having a little bit of a portfolio helped me. But I think that's a bit late for an interview tomorrow. I'm sure you already have a glowing one. And if not, that's fine too. Yeah. Hope that helps. Let's see what other questions we got. See what we got. Is it possible to start doing freelance work after learning the JavaScript together with HTML and CSS? That's what I did. I was able to very early in my career start doing some freelance work. The first job I got was by somebody taking a chance on me and taking me a bit under their wing, and so that's what helped me. I think it is possible if you put yourself out there, if you create a portfolio of the stuff you've worked on. It is going to take some time to market yourself and find. What helped me was going to meetups and telling folks, "Hey, I offer these services if this is interesting for anybody." That sort of thing. Hope that helps. Harold asks, what tools do you recommend to avoid common errors in the code? This is a bit more for later on when you're working in JavaScript outside of freeCodeCamp, but there are things like ESLint is a tool that you can run on your code. Linting is a tool that automatically reads your codes and finds common errors, and has opinions about how the code should look. Highly recommend something like this. A linter might help you. Thank you. Ustrict was ES5, so not ES6. My bad. How does Discord work? Discord is kind of like, if you're familiar with Slack, it's pretty similar to that. You can create an account and then you can join the bootcamp link to be able to join in, and you can have multiple channels for the JavaScript. For example, for the JavaScript bootcamp, we've got a general one, we've got a projects one, and we've got a help one where you can ask questions and you can just chat and write stuff. Haha. HM is asking, I would like to ask why math.round negative 5.5 is negative 5 and math.round negative 5.50001 is negative 6. Sure. Let's have a look at how math.round works. JavaScript. So, returns the value of a number rounded to the nearest integer. So let's run these. So here we see. Let me just put that here. So if we round up 5.5, it'll round up to 6. If we round negative 5.5, it'll round up. Yeah, because you're rounding up, right? To negative 5. So it's rounding up. Is it up? Rounded to the nearest integer. So it's rounding up at negative, like at 0.5, it'll round up to the nearest integer. It's kind of weird. I've created an account. What's next? This is the context of answering what is this? How does Discord work? Sorry, got a bit. Yes. So you'll find the link in the chat to the Discord itself. You'll also find the link in the forums. Which I'll throw up the link right here. Thank you. Thank you. That was it. Here, I'll put it up again. Yeah. So if you open this link, now that you have an account, you'll be able to join the channel and chat with the groups. How do we use fetch to consume an API? This is a bit beyond the scope of this bootcamp, I believe, but I can show you a little bit. Let's have a look at fetch. I believe fetch should be here. So in case you're curious, fetch will allow us to, in JavaScript, do what's called an HTTP request to fetch some data from a server. So you can find out how to do it here on MDN. I'm going to put the link here in case you're curious. Fetch, and what you can do is give it that URL, and then it'll fetch that data for you and you can consume it accordingly. I won't go too far into how to use it. I would recommend checking out the documentation. There are also loads of really great free resources for that. But I'm going to stick mostly to questions to do with the materials in the bootcamp, if I may. Yeah. Denial asks, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I'm sorry if I didn't. Can you explain or show real debugger usage like in VS Code or in Firefox? I can't share Firefox here because I'm scared of how the streaming thing will work, but I can try it out here in Chrome if that's okay with you. I personally love Firefox and I use it there, but because of the streaming setup, it's just safer to use Chrome. So debugger, I mean, I think I did that here a little bit. What you can also do, this is fun. Let's define a function called add three numbers. And let's const x equals 6, const y equals 7, const z equals 8, and return x. Yeah, let's return x plus y plus z. And let's console log add three numbers. Here's another thing that's pretty cool about the debugger. I hope I can do this. Execute challenge 21. That looks good. Let me just clear up this here. Okay. Test evaluator. Oh my goodness. No, I can't. Sorry. Do you know what? This looks like it would be a great topic for an office hours sometime. So let's do that that step-by-step debugging, as Josue asks. Step-by-step debugging. Let's do that in an office hours. I'd love to do that soon. I will write that down because I'm going to forget. Give me 1 second. Office hours. Office hours debug. What's that called? Breakpoints. Yes. If you're curious about how to handle this, hold on. Let me get a link out. That I can do. Let me get it from here. So breakpoints. I'll do it for Firefox. Yeah. Again, MDN, they have all these great documentation here. Check out the documentation for setting breakpoints. This is sort of like the next step for debugging. MDN Web Docs is a great resource. Indeed it is. So let's get there and get to the next question. So regarding ES6, it seems to provide a new syntax which is not intuitive. How does ES6 agree with the older syntax in the real world? Do developers use ES6 a lot? This is a bit of a subjective question, so I'll answer it based on my experience and opinion. Yeah. So ES6, I believe, is supported by all browsers. Let me check out DuckDuckGo. Can I use ES6? This, I don't know if you've seen this. This is a really great tool for finding out which browsers support what. Can I use .com? So here you can find out, for example, Internet Explorer, for example, kind of supports ES6. Opera Mini does not support ES6 out of the box. Android browser supports it. Chrome, Firefox, Edge, they all support it out of the box. So what that means is that, yes, it is. How does ES6 agree with older syntax in the real world? Hope that kind of illustrates it a little bit, but I'd love to take it a step beyond that and say that what a lot of modern projects do is use what are they called? Transpilers, I think they're called. Things like tools like Babel or ES Build to take ES6 and turn it into a different JavaScript, a different, like an older flavor of JavaScript, in case they need it to be compatible with older versions of Internet Explorer, for example. What that means is that you can compile ES6 down to older JavaScript in case you don't need to. Do developers use ES6 a lot? Based in my experience in projects that I'm doing nowadays, I would say yes. It's something that you see quite often, and probably it's all opinion based. I find it quite nice. I like, for example, being able to write arrow functions instead of writing out the term function, but it's all a matter of opinion. I would recommend getting comfortable and familiar with ES6. There are a lot of exercises where I can't find solution without hints or checking the solutions. Am I too weak for JavaScript? No. But when I'm watching you live, I understand everything. No. I have done these exercises before, first of all. Second of all, I oftentimes forget. Go back. If you don't believe me, go back and see. I think it was week 2, day 1, where I got massively stuck for 20 minutes. It's totally normal. You are witnessing these concepts for the first time, and they're sometimes they click on the first go, sometimes they don't. They didn't for me. For example, if you saw the ES6 video, I didn't understand promises properly until last year, even though I'd been seeing them for several years. Sometimes these things take time to click. With practice, with experience. If you saw the guest session on week 1 that we had with Dr. Barbara Oakley and Zach Caceres, you'll remember what they said. It's about being in modern software development is mostly about being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So no, absolutely not. You're not too weak for JavaScript. And in my first go, I had to look up a lot of hints or solutions for problems that I had back in the day as well. So that's totally happens. Malik, I think type name and tell me why it comes like that. Do I have it here? No, but let me go back because I think you're referring to the object. You'll ask a lot of questions. I'm sorry. I'm going to try my best to answer as many of them as I can. Whoop. So, Geraldine.name, do you mean? That'll show the name. That'll get the value for the name property of this object, if that's what you mean. So that's why we're getting the name out of it. Could you please post the Discord link again? Could you please put it in? Wonderful assistant, if you don't mind. Replay asks, any good VS Code extensions to help you as a beginner? This is a great question. Well, I would definitely recommend some kind of a linter, either ESLint or Prettier. I find to be quite nice. I must admit, I don't use VS Code a whole lot, so I would recommend maybe asking in the Discord or the forum and seeing what people recommend. Folks in the chat, if you've got ideas for extensions you would recommend, please feel free to recommend them. AB asks, what's the difference between ES5 and ES6, and which one should I give importance to? I would recommend sticking with ES6. Each of these is a new version for what folks agree JavaScript should look like. In fact, Dallas already asks that. ES6 is the current standard, and I would focus on that. Answer that much better than I would have hoped to. Richard asks, how do you find DuckDuckGo versus Chrome? Oh, Google, you mean Google, I assume. Chrome being very is DDG your default? Sorry, I'm just a privacy weirdo who I prefer to do my searches on DuckDuckGo. That's about it. So, Dallas says very correctly. For rounding, -5 is larger than -6. So -5.5 rounds up to -5. Thank you for explaining that much better than me. Oh, I like that. Round goes right. If you put the numbers side by side. Oh, that's awesome. Floxty says fetch happiness. I can agree with that. There are plenty of good VS Code extensions. Check on YouTube for recommended VS Code extensions. Totally. Do I think that knowing how to do that is basic to apply to a junior dev job? Talking about fetch, right? It depends on what you want to do. I'm sorry, I know it depends is so annoying, but so I would say that if you're going to be doing lots of front end that involves an API, it would be good to get familiar with that. Yes, and I believe I haven't looked at the syllabus myself, but if we go back to freeCodeCamp real quick, and if we take a look here at the front end development library certification, I believe I would expect there to be some stuff on fetch in there. I'm not entirely sure, as I haven't done it yet, but I would love to do a bootcamp on that someday. Just saying. Anthony says fetch returns a promise, so it's good to get used to promises a bit more. Well put. Thank you. After learning JS, what's a good starter project for building APIs? For building an API. Oh, from building an API like a backend. Ooh. How about, I mean, I'm just throwing out silly ideas here. How about a random emoji API that you send a request and it returns to you a random emoji? Could be fun. Let your ideas flow. Random quote, a random inspiring quote. Kind words. I like to. How about an API where you store all of the nice things people have said about you, so that when you're feeling down, you can have a little website that just brings up a kind word that somebody has said to you to make you feeling a little bit better. Ooh. Cephas asks, what's the difference between importing a variable from a file and importing a variable from @ component? I believe what you're, correct me if I'm wrong. Are you referring to importing from a file directly and importing from a package? What you're doing when you're importing from a package is essentially the same as importing from a file, except that the package is configured and is smart to provide to you the file that you want to import. So you can just say, hey, give me the contents of this package, and the package will be like, I gotcha. You want index.js, for example. Hope that helps. Look at that. Don't give up. I'm in the same boat as you. Happy to work together. This is what I love about this bootcamp, folks, collaborating and yeah. Miss Zelik asks, how much time can one learn React to be job ready after learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript? I'm sorry, I'm going to keep saying this. It falls down to how intuitive it feels. Like React is one. In case you're curious, React JS is a front-end development framework that's quite commonly used nowadays. I would say get comfortable, make a small app. Maybe if you have a portfolio, put a sample app there. Get ready not to know everything. You don't have to know everything about React. I don't know everything about React, and I work in React weekly, I would say. Yeah. Ooh, Josue asks, is it a bad practice to use console log in a real job? No. It is a great practice. It is not the only practice. We can use breakpoints, for example, but it is by no means a bad practice. And if anybody tells you so, I would politely but firmly disagree with them. No, absolutely. If that helps you, then absolutely do it. I would advise, however, is to be very careful about not leaving console logs behind when you commit your work in Git. Be very careful about removing those when you're committing your code. Yeah. Oh, absolutely agreed. You are absolutely job ready with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Absolutely. Oh, look at all these suggestions for extensions. I love it. Would you recommend MS Expression Web 4? I am very sorry. I have no idea what that is. So I can't recommend it because I don't know what it is. I'm sorry. Olga's M asks, "What are your favorite libraries and why?" I don't know if I have favorite libraries, if I'm honest. I've worked with React. I like React. I've worked with Vue. This is boring. I've been around for a long time, I guess, and I've seen lots of libraries come and go. I like Vue a lot. I have used Svelte. I like Svelte as well. I don't dislike any. No, I can't think of any off the top of my head that I strongly dislike. I will say this. There are frameworks that are the right tools for the job. And with experience, all you get is the ability to say, I would love to use React here, for example, but this would be a better place for Vue, for example. Ademo asks, how can I get better at writing functions? That's a good question. I would say reading and writing functions would definitely help. Practice, try to set yourself challenges. What I like to do is when I have a function that has too much, like if I have a function with, say, 15 or more lines, I will extract functions. I will divide it into smaller functions. That's what helped me understand what a function does. This is called refactoring, something I can totally recommend. How do I open the console and VS Code? Good question. What I normally do, in Windows and Mac OS at least, there's a menu at the top of the window or of the screen where it says terminal, and then I click on new terminal, and there I see a debug console. Again, I don't have a lot of experience with the console in VS Code, so if somebody else might know, that would be amazing. Thank you. Oh, here's a suggestion for a project. Stuff with Google Maps in it. That's a great API start. Great. Oh, is that a VOD? No, we're live. Hey, Nino Pepper. The this keyword. Now that's a question. That's a great question. Let's head right in. Okay, let's go back to our class. Remember, class dog. And in it, we're going to have, I keep putting in this smooth brackets. They should not be there. Inside it, we'll have a constructor like we had before with a new name. And inside we'll have, yes, this dot name is equals to new name. New dog dot. To give it a default value, we'll go with Geraldine because I love that name. Yeah, Geraldine. Cool. So in this context, in line 3, we're saying, hey, whatever this is, set its name property to be new name. So inside here, let's console log this. How fun. It's an empty object. Why? Because this is referring to the inside the context where we are, the object itself. Let's console log this afterwards. Now it's an object with name set to Geraldine. And that's all about the scope. So we are whatever we are in the scope of, that's what this is. But what if we call this outside of the function of the constructor? Let's try that. So let's instead type in console log this. Undefined. Let me pass you all a link because the MDN docs are going to have a great documentation on this keyword JavaScript. Yeah. Awesome. Check it out. It also has some differences between strict mode and non-strict mode. So let's do that. Let me put that in. Dreamy Player has the answer. Control backtick to open the console. I guess that's in VS Code. I hope so. Do I ever have experience with this imposter syndrome? Yes. In case you're not familiar with the term, folks, imposter syndrome is a phenomenon that happens where you've made your way where for example, you've got a job or you're working in tech and you sort of feel like, wait, did I just lie and cheat my way in here? Am I Am I an imposter? Am I really a programmer? This is something that happens to a lot of us, and it gets talked about a lot, especially when we're starting out. I want to come out here and say, even though I have, oh my gosh, I have 12 years of at least 12 years of experience now. Even though I've got over 12 years of experience, I still experience imposter syndrome. It's just something terribly common that I find, and I have found that it's never gone away from me, but I've learned to handle it. For example, by being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Now, I don't want to discourage you and say that it's never going to go away. On the contrary, I want to say, hey, this is something that that I find one can get some tools to handle. Being open and honest about it is something, for example, that helps me a lot. Josue asks, what projects do you recommend to be made after this bootcamp? Well, I think I kind of touched upon that before. Maybe definitely recommend for making projects, go with your imagination. What, for example, for the web development bootcamp, I would recommend try and see if there's a website that inspires you with a layout that's interesting and try and imitate that. What other projects can we cover? For example, with JavaScript, doing things like doing cool things in the console. Yeah. Having sorting algorithms, for example. We're going to be covering a little bit of that. Once we get into stuff like more complex algorithms and data structures, we will totally have some more ideas of what to do. Go with your imagination. There's no wrong projects, in my opinion. Well, there are probably projects you shouldn't do, but within reason, have some projects of stuff to do, like little websites that can I plug a project that one of our fellow boot campers has done? I hope that's okay. For example, somebody made an anagram checker, a website that checks. Check it out on the Discord. I don't want to call out expose them or anything, but somebody in one of the learners made an anagram checker, a web app that checks whether two words are anagrams of each other. That is, they have the same letters. Olguis asks, can you explain how to use .map properly? Yes, but in a later session. I apologize in advance. We are short on time. I want to ask some more questions related to what we've been doing so far. And the bootcamp, if I may, give me one sec. The bootcamp will cover that. If I go to, let me just scroll down a little bit here. Basic data structure. I think it's in basic algorithm or functional programming, I believe. In this course, you'll learn the core concepts of functional programming, including pure functions, how to avoid mutations, and how to write cleaner code with methods like map and filter. So we will get there, but I want to stay on the topic for what we've done so far. I appreciate the enthusiasm and the question. What else we got? What else we got? Anyone know some beginner code challenges for JavaScript? I can plug one that I know, exorcism.org I will put a link here in the chat, exorcism.org. Super fun, open source platform for learning coding. I've been doing that streaming in my personal time as well. People PMT, do I have a course about TypeScript? Not yet, but I am working on one for Spanish speakers, Fundamentos de TypeScript. Stay tuned. What else we got? Control Alt N. Can I join 2? Very well put. Being comfortable with the uncomfortable, that's where we grow. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, looks like I've caught up with the chat. In that case, I would say, let's call it a day for today. For tomorrow, we will cover, there's no homework. As said, check out the next exercises which will be the basic data structures, as well as the Caesar cipher. But just start thinking about them in the back of your head. Yes. And we will catch you all tomorrow for the next one. And yes, thank you to my wonderful assistant. Guest session. We will have a guest session on Thursday where we will cover Everyone Matters, an inclusive approach to design, development, and testing, from Parham, who is wonderful. I'm so excited for this. It's going to be all about inclusive design, development, and testing. It's going to be great. So let me see. Am I missing something? If you have any further questions, yes. Where can we find the talk about learning with Dr. Oakley? You will find that. You will find that in the recordings in the dashboard for the bootcamp. So if you go to classcentral.com or go on the YouTube channel for Class Central, you'll find the recordings there, including all of the previous recordings for this. Galbrush asked, what time is the guest session? Is it the same time as this? No, it is not. It is, I believe, at 8 p.m. Central European time, which is -6 is 2 p.m. Eastern, -9, 11 a.m. Am I bad at math? Yes, 11 a.m. Pacific. Looking eastward would be, I think, 8 hours difference with Japan Standard Time. Yeah. You'll find you find the timetable in the events. Where's the events? Do I have the event links here? You'll find it here in the Class Central. If you go to events in the dashboard, you'll find all the times there. And look at that. Yeah. Learning how to learn for programmers. Yeah. Well, let's call it a day, folks. Great job today. Thank you all so much for joining. And if you're watching on YouTube, hope you're all having, well, even if you're not watching on YouTube, if you're watching live as well, I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one, everybody. Bye now.